Hello, my name is Hayden Wayne. This is the Healing Channel, episode 5. Today, from episode 3 of Look Both Ways, I'll be doing a serious evaluation of our social-political condition. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. The court has nothing to do with truth. If you want justice, go to a whorehouse. Wrong preposition. Jesus didn't die for our sins. He was murdered because of them. A man who talked of love and compassion was savagely beaten and nailed to a cross, a symbol for which he is associated and politicized with the rationalized purpose of war, genocide, and misogyny by the material-driven corporate lust of the church, which would surely have burned him as a heretic because he threatened their business profit-making agenda. Where is thy love to hold us in the space of quietude? Where are those kind words spoken, so to heal the blackest mood, and bathe us in love's presence when no one else is there, and life's specific purpose seems to vanish in the air? I, like many vessels, cut adrift a storm-tossed sea, uncertain in the darkness of where I next will be, yearning for some tenderness to push me back to shore, with love to fill my wanting sails, to carry me once more. Come to me. Come now. Come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come now, come to me. How many times I've read that sacred book all the way through, and tucked myself alone in bed that's large enough for two, and wondered why, and wondered how, and wondered what and when, each moment an eternity, to only start again. How deep this brooding hollow, so etched within my heart, how loud this growing silence that keeps us so apart. And yet, even in this solitude, when I think to make you smile, no matter how bleak the moment, the light carries me a while. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come now, come to me. Where will we go? What will we do? When will this day be done, to fill this emptiness that grows when there's not anyone? though we are distant travelers, in tandem sets us free. You will learn it always was that we were meant to be. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come to me. Come now, come to me. Come now, come to me. Profits at whose expense? To the point we are no longer fit to defend our country? That we no longer know how to think because of all the garbage telling us what to think? That our infrastructure has been allowed to decay to dysfunction? That trust in our governance is no more than the knowing how we are no longer represented, and the stealing and the corruption goes on? That we have no health care, which is an unalienable right? That we have destroyed our educational system and put our children into indentured servitude? That we have poisoned our food supply, empty of nutrients and full of causes of degenerative diseases? The wanton disregard of the natural world and destruction of it for fossil fuels? The continual perpetuation of war? The narrowed news cycles so not to tell us what is happening around us? It is not a question of the inalienable right that all are entitled to an opportunity to better ourselves and maximize our full potential, but to recognize excellence and synergy, which is the ultimate currency and fundamental necessity to creating a functional, evolving society. Otherwise, one size fits all, and we devolve to the lowest common denominator. The Dark Ages all over again. The smug, treasonous corporate elite who are poisoning America. This corporate United States killing the greatest utopian ideology ever created, America. Ultimately angering the rapidly growing underclass to the point of the return of the guillotine and the eradication of the upper echelon of 1% who have clearly brought this onto themselves. United we are. To hear the press and statisticians tell it, we are so extremely polarized to the point of dysfunction. The fact of the matter is, we have never been more united in our feelings of betrayal and outrage. How the political system continues to prove indifferent to our needs, let alone provide candidates who care more about us than themselves and their re-election. How we are completely cynical of the press. How continually biased and misinformed they want to make us. How we are completely aware of how Wall Street is stealing from us. How corporations don't pay their fair share of taxes. How disproportionate the military budget is compared to our needs of self-defense, let alone how our taxes are being used to specifically spy on ourselves. How our honest, hard laborers are not being salaried at sustainable living wages, where most households need both parents to bring in an income and still have trouble paying the bills, let alone the reality of less and less time for parents to be with their children. how the destruction of our educational system is a clear act of treason, how non-for-profit health care in our country is an inalienable right, how because of greed, the food industry is giving us such inferior produce, full of preservatives and herbicides, to prove injurious to our well-being, where 75% of all medical intervention is for maladies that didn't have to happen in the first place if we had eaten a better quality of food, where we are the most obese nation in the world, which means more prone to type 2 diabetes and coronary vascular disease and dementia, let alone how immune compromised we have become. How we're being incited for war, whether with some designated foreign entity or amongst ourselves in civil conflagration. That the corporate powers recognize a citizen is worth $45,000 to $50,000 a year profit incarcerated, where though we represent 1/5 of the world's population, we incarcerate 25% of the world's prison population and have prisons on the stock exchange, where the idea of abortion is repugnant, but not the intervention into a woman's reproductive rights beyond her own personal choice, obscene, where more concern for the unborn fetus and total disregard for the unwanted child is demonstrated by a failed foster care system and hungry penal system anxiously waiting more profits, where the police department has grown unhealthily into a paramilitary force, where all of us are exhausted and so much in need of love and civility, not allowed to evolve to maximize our individual potential, worthy of respect, allowed to be a synergistic collaborator to the greater good. That these truths are self-evident for the people, by the people, and of the people, and shall not perish from the earth. That this moment is sacred for the next 7 generations. That life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the highest aspirational ideals and the true wealth of any society. That profits for all will always be the greater strength than profits for the few. That the end game is rapidly approaching, where all will be lost. Yes, we are united more than divided. Last century, a war that did not have to happen embroiled the world. The ceasefire of Versailles was to prove not only the plan for the operational theater of war for the next 100 years, but the inevitability of World War II and the industrialization of murder on the highest satanic scale. Over 100 million souls perished. And that doesn't include the tens of millions who died from the influenza pandemic and Mao Zedong's own genocide of 100 to 300 million of his own Chinese citizens. We now have cataclysmic weapons that will kill billions, as well as destroy most, if not all, of our precious biosphere. Fear also unites us. Let us pray that death does not. And most importantly, we each have one vote. Fear is an enabler for outside forces to take control. The destruction of e pluribus unum, the strength of any society, is its cohesiveness and ability to synergistically evolve. COVID is the latest tool to destroy this necessity through fear. Individualized through quarantine by the cohesive corrosive forces of power, we now find ourselves impotent to stand up against oligarchical giants buying influence to solely perpetuate their profitability, not the common good. Hitler was not an accident. He's alive and well. And if we do not wake up immediately, the coming cultural destruction, let alone physical, is unfathomable. This mindset is about ignorance and the refusal to recognize someone, anyone, who excluded him, herself from mankind for countless hours on end to achieve excellence. Jealousy rules the day. These sycophantic narcissists who pride their own self-victimization not only refuse to make any effort to obtain more than themselves, let alone take the time to investigate factual history. Make it their vision quest to destroy all around them who have proven a higher synergistic power through truth and enlightenment. This is a cancer relishing the destruction of our educational system in order to perpetuate its misguided thoughts. Hostile aggressive, self-congratulatory, self-perpetuating mediocrity. Watch them queue up and scream, "Sieg Heil!" at the top of their lungs while standing in front of the crowd for all to see. Considering the continuum of inept candidates and officials who were elected to office throughout my life, I realize how blessed I am to have been born when I was, to have experienced the grace and intellect of Adlai Ewing Stevenson and John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Quote, "Obtain the truth and do not sell wisdom, instruction, and understanding." Unquote. Proverbs 23:23. Quote, "The emperor of the future is the emperor of the mind." Unquote. Winston Churchill. Quote, "Rationalization is the clutch to the transmission of action." Unquote. Hayden Wayne. One thing that immediately becomes apparent within social media is the quantitative aspect of how many opinions are constantly being flung at each other. And most disturbingly, how hostile the majority of these opinions are, while sitting on the foundation of a geometrically progressed, narrowed education. It seemingly is all subjective faith and self-serving emotion, not specific hard scientific facts within an environment where how many likes, subscribers, and followers is more important than content. How within social media one readily accepts opinions without regard to the delivery system. How we can intuitively navigate ourselves when physically examining a person's persona, their deportment, the manner in which they dress, how they carry themselves, their cleanliness, their ability to listen, the intensity of how they engage in eye contact, the manner in which they speak, the lilt of the voice, how they inflect the content of their words. All discarded through the sole reliance of the handheld device, texting and tweeting within a paradigm of so few characters, the truncation of intellectual intercourse reduced into acronyms or less, demonstrating great cover for those with lesser skill sets to express themselves, within the ultimate resolve to be liked, followed, and subscribed to, devolving communication down to a monosyllabic click. Avid consumers of pessimism from the top down, indifferent to good news. 170,000 people lifted out of poverty every day. We are so more better off in material ways than a millionaire in the 1920s. Indoor plumbing, climate-controlled environments, refrigeration, electricity, telecommunication, access to food and clean water, night and day, compared to 150 years ago when life expectancy was around 40 years, before penicillin, before antibiotics, before vaccines. In the past 50 or so years, extreme poverty in the world dropped from 60% to 10%, while the population grew 2.5 times. And he drifts from town to town aimlessly, with a joint rolled in his shirt pocket shamelessly, just a stranger passing through namelessly, with no dictionary meaning to his life. His colorful potential in black and white, angry, not indifferent to the most benign slight, making excuses, not accountable for what's right, praying to his faith for some change. This itch that's never scratched and won't go away, growing more distracting as he wanders through the day. His inner conversations drown out something he might say. A cloud drifting across the sun. A torrent rain to ease this arid land that never falls. The tender kiss to heal all wounds that never calls, while never showing tears of pain. Inside how he bawls, how bright this light, yet so dark his room. We are the misuse of memory and imagination. We are the only animal species that is injurious to the biosphere, increasing the speed of driving ourselves towards the extinction of all life forms on the planet Earth. No other animal, within its own context to survive, is a threat to the entire biosphere. No other species trophy hunts and rationalizes its superiority above the rest of the animal kingdom. Obviously, this unique threat within us was created by outside forces beyond the evolutionary processes that brought the rest of the biosphere into existence. It must have been extraterrestrial. The perfection of creation that contributed to the magnificence of our world is truly self-evident to everything but Homo sapiens. It doesn't matter having an intelligent conversation about who created us, which or what. We are unique in our destructive ability and perpetuated bloodlust for murder and destruction on a staggering scale of Armageddon. We must evolve our consciousness to escape our mundane, selfish, counterintuitive, mono-frequency psychosis to the cost of others, and multidimensionally evolve the ability to interface into higher cognitive realms and density planes. Those of us who succeed in understanding the necessary technique of this will be the ones who survive, thrive, and synergistically expand the perpetual renaissance within consciously coinciding with creation itself. There is no way out of our inevitable self-destruction if we do not willingly evolve to this higher ethereal plane. We either purposely elevate our resonance, our ethereal vibration, or voyeuristically watch the end approach. There's no middle ground. other than the speed of our inevitable decline towards extinction. Within the totality of totality, where everything exists, it is obviously about the choices we make, how conscious we choose to be, how we visualize the world in which we dwell, our moral responsibility to leave the world better than from whence we entered it. Recognize this moment is sacred for the next 7 generations. What has been given to us is on loan from our children. We are connected and equal within the eye of creation. We are a witness to history repeating itself. Psychopathic anarchists have been incited and unleashed. Their mission, just falling short of burning down the German Reichstag, February 27, 1933. Yet again, but this time it's the Capitol, the representational temple of democracy here in the United States, as well as being the symbol of democracy for the rest of the world. This seditious physical attack on our nation's Capitol building, January 6, 2021, as well as the continued attacks on our most precious Constitution from this narcissist megalomaniac moron, which was egged on from day one by the press, who saw a cash cow in advertising during the Republican primary, who never questioned his rude behavior, overt lying, and ignorance, which clearly demonstrated he was unfit for the office for which he was competing, was tolerated, thus allowing this demagogue to gain traction, succeeding in its fascist purpose, fulfilling the cynicism of the electorate, who, in spite of a 3 million vote majority against, the Electoral College made president, separating us further through fear and now needed security to protect the institution from the mob. Yes, this traitor, Trump, whose self-congratulatory arrogance is more like Benito Mussolini's, and his advisor, Steve Bannon, more like Hitler's chief of staff, Martin Bormann, has clearly violated the Constitution's Domestic Emoluments Clause, Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 7, as well as the Logan Act, has succeeded building his wall. A security fence is now around the Capitol building, preventing what was once free access for the people. Armed to the teeth, these violent psychopathic thugs came very close to inflicting physical damage to the temple of democracy, which was built during Lincoln's presidency. There was a threat to those inside it. 5 people died in the melee, including a policeman who was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. As was the Reichstag burned by the brown shirts during the aspiring Nazi movement. We witness what could have proven a repeat in history, ultimately being overrun by fascists whose only contribution to society is the clear demonstration of their own self-victimization and self-loathing, which manifests itself in hating anything and everything in their path that threatens them, such as moral enlightenment. How sad it is we, who uphold the law, find ourselves with less and less civil liberties because of anarchy. Yes, the world does devolve at its lowest common denominator. When one wonders how a country like Germany, with such a seemingly fathomless culture, could devolve to allow the election and subsequently accept the dismantling of their legal system, permitting a degenerate named Adolf Hitler to gain total unquestionable power, and not only take their country down the road to war and total destruction, but while in the process create the ultimate industrialized killing machine that has never been matched in history. One has to wonder how it could possibly happen without the willingness of its people. Ordinary people. When reading history and any particular scholar's work that is unquestionably well wrought on the subject, no matter how well incrementally detailed, it is still a glossing over the ever so slow creep of sepsis that ultimately led to that society's total decay. We are witnessing that nefarious nano-creep of devolution right now within our country. And when the moment comes of realization, how do we get to here? It will be too late. And the forces of evil will have to play themselves out to their kinetic conclusion, most likely consuming itself as well within its own satanic self-destructiveness. Yes, Hitler is alive and well, when the everyday Joe can be seduced as readily as we seem to demonstrate by our culpability not to hold people accountable for their actions, shouting out their lies and unquenchable lust for greed, and thirst to remove our civil liberties, as well as holding our institutions like the press responsible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, while proudly holding science as our foundation and the litmus for any society's success and evolution, not some emotional, faith-based incitement of sensational rhetoric. We must hold all corporations accountable to pay their respective fair share of taxes in order to pay for a thriving infrastructure which would contribute to an evolving education and healthcare system. Not this slow creep of decay that has brought us down to not only where we are, but where we will ultimately collapse into anarchy. There are reasons why our lives are the way they are. And by the way, if you think government is too large, or you simply don't like the way government is clearly not working, guess what? We're the government. It says so in the instruction manual. You know, the Constitution, we, the people. Plague is a group psychosis of immune vulnerability, allowing the body to weaken to complete susceptibility. It is also true of the mind through the destruction of our educational system and the resulting loss of morality, compassion, accountability, and the tools to be human. Where we were once of the people, by the people, and for the people, and now of the dollar, by the dollar, and for the dollar. I didn't sleep well last night. I had watched a clip of actor Will Smith slapping comic Chris Rock's face because of a joke about Will's wife shaving her head. It wasn't so much about the snap, but the continued twice F-cursing verbal rebuke after returning to his front row seat uttered towards Chris. I am a member of SAG for over 50 years. I happened not to watch the Academy Awards that night because I wasn't in the mood to watch something as frivolous, considering the state of the world and the suffering of the Ukrainians at this very moment. Because of a satanic megalomaniac going into an unprovoked war, killing thousands of people, including his own troops. A page right out of the 1938 playbook of Hitler. And our most seeming potential to not only have this war escalate, but possibly become chemical and or atomic. Here in this country, where too many people pride themselves within the reality of their cultural illiteracy, where the attention span of most individuals is a tweet or text, where long form, whether classical arts, music, or literature seems to have been supplanted by the narcissism of the handheld selfie, film has risen to be thought of as our number one art form. Considering film is about fantasy entertainment, make-believe, and sometimes a truthful account when doing a biography or moment from history, one would assume when in front of the camera, one remains professional and unemotional within the script. Political correctness has all but neutered any intellectual freedom, so not to offend the lowest common denominator in the room. Clearly as tasteless as Chris Rock's choice of humor to inflict onto not just one individual, but what has become the expected standard fare by comics in general towards as many notable audience members within the shock and awe of comedy in a public arena, Will single-handedly erased his moment in the sun. His winning the Academy Award for Best Acting Performance will always be overshadowed by his emotional outburst. I have been a fan of Will's since his early Prince Fresh days. I now have no desire to see any more of his work, or Chris Rock's for that matter. 15 million people were purportedly watching that night. All the glamour and mystique vanished. A boxing match and World Federated Wrestling demonstrated more class than what was displayed. So much for the cries that lives matter and the glorification of ebonics and woke culture. This is we at our lowest. We had the moment to reach out to the world in a cry for peace and tolerance, to hopefully unite the world in pressuring Putin to stop his onslaught. As naive as this might be deemed, at least this moment could have been used to show the world through art how we can civilly demonstrate the better angels of our nature. Not this. Not this. I posted this on YouTube. These were the comments. Nurse 49. Beautifully put. Very disturbing indeed. James Lamore. My attention span prevented me from reading your essay to the end. Made in Heaven, 88. Will slap Chris because he whipped by Jada. It ain't that deep, bro. Christina YouTube. I think you were meant to write your essay on a piece of paper and submit it to your college professor and not on a YouTube comments. LOL. Don Juan. Thank you for this, Hayden. Powerful words. And I replied, and thank you, sir. The time has come for those of us who recognize the moment to unite all of us within the grace of our full potential. The biggest crime against humanity is not only not thinking, but consciously choosing to not be conscious. Living a life not perpetually educating yourself. Mindlessness residing within automatic pilot, as opposed to within the ardor of every quantum component of our being, maximizing our full potential. Synergistically contributing to the common good. We all have moments of darkness, some stronger than others. But nonetheless, it is not exclusive. There is a way to higher ground. Trust in the better angels of our being. Reach for the light, the verb within our consciousness, escaping the tyranny of the gravity that holds us. Peace. This is episode 3 from Look Both Ways.
Hold us in the space of quietude. Where are those kind words spoken, so to heal the blackest mood, and bathe us in love's presence when no one else is there, and life's specific purpose seems to vanish in the air. I, like many vessels, cut adrift a storm-tossed sea, uncertain in the darkness of where I next will be, yearning for some tenderness to push me back to shore, with love to fill my wanting sails, to carry me once more. Come to me, come now, come to me, come to me, come now, come to me, come to me, come now, come to me, come now, to me. How many times I've read that sacred book the whole way through, and tucked myself alone in bed that's large enough for two, and wondered why, and wondered how, and wonder what and when, each moment an eternity to only start again. How deep this brooding hollow, so etched within my heart. How loud this growing silence that keeps us so apart. And yet even in this solitude, when I think to make you smile, no matter how bleak the moment, the light carries me a while. Come to me, come now, come to me, come to me, come now, come to me, come to me. To me, where will we go? What will we do? And will this day be done to fill this emptiness that grows when there's not anyone? Though we are distant travelers in tandem, sets us free.